Walmart's going to close 4 stores in Chicago this weekend. By the way, that is half the total in Chicago.
This is difficult to wrap your head around. Record profits, $100+ billion. However, massive layoffs galore.
The real cost of tariffs isn't showing up on balance sheets in Beijing. It's showing up in pink slips across the United States. Not in the boardrooms of billion-dollar tech firms, nor in China's export statistics, but in the daily lives of American workers, now facing layoffs, reduced hours, and rising bills. Walmart, the largest private employer in the U.S., has just initiated a sweeping restructuring strategy, streamlining operations, downsizing logistics networks, and shutting down multiple fulfillment centers in states like Texas, Illinois, and New Jersey. This isn't a temporary adjustment to market volatility, but the visible fallout of long-term tariff policies originally designed to punish foreign rivals' policies that are now backfiring on the domestic front. As import costs continue to surge, profit margins have thinned to unsustainable levels. Companies like Walmart are left with no easy choices. Either absorb the financial hit, raise prices, and risk losing customers, or restructure aggressively to preserve shareholder value. In reality, most are doing all three, and American workers are paying the price. This slow-burn crisis, years in the making, has pushed major retailers into survival mode. Consumers are pulling back. Inventories are shrinking. Automation is replacing labor not as a leap toward innovation, but as a desperate move to reduce overhead. What was once an abstract policy debate in Washington has now become an everyday economic reality, one that's quietly dismantling the backbone of the American workforce. The question now isn't whether tariffs have hurt U.S. adversaries. It's why American families, not foreign governments, are being forced to carry the burden, and why the unraveling seems to be starting with Walmart. The shock isn't just in the headlines, it's unfolding quietly in warehouses and logistics hubs across America. Walmart has begun shutting down multiple fulfillment centers, including a major Sam's Club facility in Fort Worth, Texas. Similar closures are underway in New Jersey and Illinois, signaling a broader operational contraction that goes far beyond routine restructuring. While the company has not disclosed the exact number of layoffs, the lack of transparency is telling. Many positions are being phased out, others consolidated, and a growing portion of the workforce is being replaced not by new hires, but by automation. Robotics and AI systems are rapidly being deployed not as a symbol of innovation, but as a necessity for survival in a high-cost post-tariff economy. Labor is no longer just a resource, it's a liability on the profit and loss sheet. The pressure to cut costs has pushed corporations to replace human workers with machines that don't take breaks, negotiate wages, or require health care. These job losses may appear localized, but they mark the early signs of a much larger shift, a systematic rollback of labor-intensive operations triggered by rising costs and shrinking margins. And for workers on the ground, the message is clear. In this economic equation, they are becoming the first and easiest cost to eliminate. What begins in a warehouse ends at the dinner table. The closure of fulfillment centers and the rise of automation aren't just eliminating jobs, they're collapsing the financial foundation of millions of American households that rely on a single income to survive. Unlike previous downturns, this wave of layoffs is striking with little warning and hitting sectors once considered stable: retail, logistics, and even parts of tech. For families where one parent works and the other stays home, a structure still common across many American communities. The loss of employment doesn't just mean reduced income.
My husband's been laid off for a year now, and I've been shouldering the financial burden for the family.
Do I pay the electric and the fuel and the groceries and the overdue credit card bill and the cable bill, or do I pay the mortgage payment that's already late?
It means the sudden disappearance of all income, and for many, there's no backup plan. Even households with emergency savings aren't safe. Rising grocery bills, climbing interest rates, and skyrocketing healthcare premiums are quickly consuming what little reserves families had built. What might have sustained a family for 3 months in the past is now barely enough to get through one. As the economic shock spreads, community relief organizations, church-based food banks, and online job boards have seen surges in demand, often from people who just months ago had stable employment and never imagined needing help. Social media is now filled with job-sharing groups where former managers, retail clerks, and warehouse workers trade tips, contacts, and desperation in equal measure. This is no longer just a business crisis. It's becoming a widespread erosion of public confidence in the economy's ability to protect its own people. The downstream effects are visible. Discretionary spending is dropping. Family budgets are tightening, and psychological stress is mounting. People are no longer dreaming of upward mobility. They're bracing for survival. For many Americans, the layoff didn't come once, it came twice. Across the country, workers are finding themselves caught in a brutal cycle, laid off from one job, rehired elsewhere in a lower-paying role, only to be laid off again within months. Behind every spreadsheet of layoffs is a story of a household reeling, of a parent rethinking their future, of a worker wondering whether it's even worth applying again. The pain of job loss isn't just financial, it's existential. It shifts how people think about work worth and what's still possible in the American economy. If corporate America is restructuring to survive, but families are left with nothing, what kind of economy are we really building for the next generation? And if the system keeps pushing people out faster than it can pull them back in, how long before they stop believing in it altogether? For many U.S. businesses, tariffs haven't been a negotiating tool. They've become a line-item cost that bleeds quietly through every layer of their operations. According to a July 2025 analysis by the J.P. Morgan Chase Institute, small and mid-sized businesses, defined as those earning between $10 million and $1 billion in annual revenue, have collectively absorbed a staggering $82.3 billion in direct tariff-related costs under Trump-era import duties. These aren't abstract figures on an economist's chart. They're real expenses that businesses are now forced to offset by raising prices, laying off workers, or sacrificing profits. Broken down further, the current tariff load equates to roughly $2.80 per employee, representing an estimated 3.1% of the average annual wage. In industries with already thin margins, such as retail and food service, that number is enough to erase entire job categories or derail hiring plans altogether. The broader fiscal impact is visible too. While tariff revenues are expected to generate up to $156.4 billion in government income, equivalent to around 0.5% of GDP, the economic trade-off is steep. Trade wars triggered by these duties have disrupted global supply chains, discouraged foreign investment, and introduced persistent volatility into cross-border commerce. These ripple effects explain why giants like Walmart, Nike, and McDonald's are all issuing forward-looking statements warning of price hikes, layoffs, or both. It's no longer about protecting U.S. industries, it's about protecting balance sheets from systemic pressure. What was once pitched as a bold economic defense has become a heavy financial drag, not only on companies' operational capacity, but on their ability to plan, hire, and grow. The cost of tariffs in the end is not just measured in dollars paid to customs. It's measured in every job not created, every product priced out of reach, and every American business forced into survival mode. Walmart has not explicitly blamed tariffs for its latest wave of closures and cost-cutting, but the connection is hard to deny. What we're witnessing is the downstream effect of a trade policy designed years ago now quietly reshaping the internal mechanics of American retail. The logic is simple but brutal. As import tariffs push up the cost of goods, companies are forced to pass those costs somewhere. For a retailer like Walmart, heavily reliant on global supply chains and high-volume inventory, that means tighter margins, higher shelf prices, and growing pressure to streamline every part of its operation. Demand begins to soften. Customers already stretched thin by inflation start pulling back. Inventory turns slower. Cost structures become unsustainable. The only lever left to pull is operational efficiency, and that means layoffs. Back in 2023, Walmart issued a clear warning price increases were coming, and tariffs were the reason. The company's CFO openly stated that inventory levels had to be reduced and purchase orders cut due to tariff pressure. That announcement wasn't just about financial forecasting, it was a signal that the burden of trade policy was being shifted down the chain from corporations to consumers. Even former President Trump acknowledged the situation publicly, albeit with a different expectation. Rather than letting retailers adjust pricing to preserve margins, he urged companies like Walmart to share the tariff burden and avoid passing it to customers. But that directive ignored a basic economic reality: retailers operate on razor-thin margins, and the math doesn't work without consequences. Those consequences have now arrived not in headlines but in job cuts, closed facilities, and disappearing paychecks. This is the hidden cost of weaponized trade policy. Not the political victory of tariffs on paper, but the quiet erosion of retail infrastructure and labor security at home. Walmart's shutdowns are not isolated events. They are a warning sign of a broader realignment quietly sweeping across the American economy. What began as a set of tariffs meant to apply pressure on foreign competitors has now turned inward, transforming into a heavy burden borne by domestic businesses, consumers, and workers alike. The tools meant to protect American industry are instead accelerating its internal strain. Robots are replacing workers, stores are shuttering, household bills are rising month after month. And while these changes might appear incremental, they are not temporary, they are structural. This isn't a short-term correction. It's a painful transformation, slowly but steadily reshaping the foundations of labor consumption and corporate survival in the US. It's not foreign nations, it's not Wall Street. It's the American people through every lost job, every higher grocery bill, and every shrinking middle-class dream. If a giant like Walmart can no longer withstand the pressure, what chance do smaller companies or average families have of making it through what comes next? How many businesses will survive this shift? How many households will be left behind? Let us know what you think in the comments. Who do you believe is winning, and who is being quietly sacrificed in this economic game?